Okay, let's unpack a really critical disruption that's hitting a core global supply chain. And we want to focus on how it's landing, well, squarely on the plates of independent automotive repair shops, like yours potentially. We're diving into the world of rare earth magnets.
Right. In this deep dive, it's really zeroing in on the impact from that halt in exports, specifically from China back in April 2025. This isn't just some abstract industry news. It's a direct challenge affecting how shops like yours are operating well right now.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning the insights we're sharing today, they come straight from a detailed report. It was developed by Jess Recruiting Automotive professionals. So if you want to dig deeper into the data yourself, you can find more info at jessrecruiting.com.
Good point. And these magnets, they are fundamentally the workhorse in so many modern car parts. We often think, EV motors, and that's true. But they're also essential in electric power steering EPS and anti-lock braking systems, your ABS pumps, HVAC blowers, audio systems, even ADS sensors.
Wow. Okay, so they're really pervasive.
Oh, absolutely. You might actually be surprised how much is in there. A modern EV, for instance, can have anywhere from, say, 1 to 5 kilograms of this stuff.
1 to 5 kilos. Okay. So when the main source, China, supplying over 90% suddenly tightens the spigot, what does that actually do to the market? And maybe more importantly, to the shops on the ground?
Well, the market reaction was immediate and sharp. The report, it shows that raw material spot prices, they surged around 16% pretty quickly after January 2025. And what's really telling is how fast that volatility, it just translates into double-digit price hikes for the finished parts you're ordering every day.
And it's not just the cost increase, is it? There's an availability issue cascading down, too, especially with the OEMs, the manufacturers involved.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. The OEMs, well, they're understandably prioritizing their own production lines, their warranty works. They're essentially hoarding the available part supply.
Hoarding? Okay.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the big Tier 1 suppliers, they're seeing critical components, things like EPS units, ABS modules. They're on indefinite back order. And the reason, that magnet export volume year on year for April, it dropped by a staggering 50%.
50%. So, okay, for you listening, running an independent shop, you're suddenly facing these, well, almost impossible situations. How do you even quote a job when your distributor's price might change next week or they slap on a surcharge?
Right. It forces this really difficult choice, doesn't it? Do you tie up precious cash flow in inventory, hoping you guess right and use it soon? Or do you risk turning away work because you can't get the part?
Yeah.
There was an IMR survey earlier this year, and it really highlighted this pain point even before this crisis.
Yeah.
Nearly 21% of shops said finding affordable parts was their #1 challenge then. With this magnet situation layered on top, that number has got to be climbing.
You can really see the real-world pain in the data from just May and June 2025. Take EPS racks, wholesale prices jumped, 27%?
27%. And lead times. Forget about it. They went from maybe 3 days to a frustrating 4 to 6 weeks.
Weeks. Try managing your service bays with that kind of uncertainty.
Exactly. And it's similar for ABS pump motor packs. Prices up around 19%. Plus, distributors are often putting allocation limits on them. Maybe 1 unit per customer per month. And for some specific early EV models you might be seeing now, like Chevy Bolts, Hyundai Ioniq 5s, maybe some Prius Primes, getting those specific traction motors, yeah, that's becoming a real availability headache.
Okay, so faced with all this right now, what about the future? Is there any help coming down the pipeline?
Well, there are domestic supply initiatives underway, which is good news long term. New plants expected late 2025 into 2026. But, and this is a big but for shops, their initial output, it's mostly earmarked for the OEMs. So they're not really a short-term fix for the aftermarket challenges we're talking about today.
Right. Not for the independent guys right now.
No. And those alternative rare earth-free technologies, they're promising, but likely still a decade away from making a real dent in the market.
So just waiting this out isn't really a viable strategy, is it? The situation demands action now. It sounds like it really requires a strategic playbook for shops to navigate this.
Absolutely. That's the key takeaway. First up, inventory triage. You need to identify the parts you service often that heavily rely on these magnets. And then, if your cash flow allows, maybe consider holding a focused, say, 30-day buffer stock of just those specific items.
Makes sense. And relying on just one supplier seems risky too.
Definitely. Multi-sourcing is crucial now. Diversify your network. Include regional distributors, maybe look more seriously at trusted remanufacturers, even certified salvage partners.
Ah, reman and salvage. That's interesting.
Yeah, and leaning into reman and salvage, it isn't just about finding any part when new ones are scarce. Partnering with certified recyclers for quality remanufactured components, especially the complex, expensive ones like drive units, that could seriously cut down vehicle downtime for your customers.
Good point. And communicating all this must be key.
Oh, absolutely. Proactive customer communication is more important than ever. Be transparent upfront about potential lead times, about potential surcharges before you even start the job. Maybe even offer staged appointments if needed. Do some work now, finish when the part arrives.
Okay. What else?
Well, this crisis also shines a light on the value of upskilling and diversifying your services. When certain parts are scarce, expertise in complex diagnostics or maybe high-voltage battery service areas less reliant on these specific magnets, those become really stable, critical revenue streams.
So lean into the skills that aren't just part swapping.
Precisely. And finally, just stay informed. Keep a close eye on policy changes, things like tariffs, right-to-repair legislation. They can directly impact part availability and cost down the line.
So surviving and maybe even thriving through this magnet crisis really demands agility, strategic thinking.
It really does. It's about proactively adopting these kinds of new operational strategies to build resilience into your business. It's not easy, but it's necessary.
And remember, this deep dive into the supply chain challenges hitting independent shops. It drew heavily on that detailed report by Jess Recruiting Automotive Professionals. You can find out more about their work and insights at jessrecruiting.com.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. And it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? How does this whole crisis fundamentally change what it means for an independent shop to be well-stocked? Maybe it's moving beyond just having parts physically on the shelf to mastering sourcing, communication, and having that alternative service expertise ready to go.
A lot to think about there. Definitely a new landscape.